Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black. Actually, welcome to a very special, very
Nice.
energetic, very short episode of Take the Black. This episode is going to be shorter than usual because we don't care. No, actually, it's going to be shorter because we're going to cut this one a little bit short because after it, we're going to record our thoughts on the new season of The Wheel of Time coming out this Friday. We've already seen the episodes, we've seen a bunch, we already know what's going to happen, but we can't tell you
Yep.
quite yet because the embargo is up. So we're going to do like half an episode, talk about The Wheel of Time, and bring you to another video tomorrow. But in the
Yes.
meantime, hey everybody, how's it going? Hello, Martha. Good to see you. Hello, Mimi. Hello, Record Rose. Love the name. Uh, Thanks for joining us on WiC Wednesday, as I've decided to call it just this second. Thank you for joining us for Take the Black, the only show on the internet where we dare to talk about things like sci-fi, fantasy, the dragon, space lasers, swords, and such things as this. Daniel, I love the backdrop. You look like a proper
Thank you.
bookman.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in the library making use of their ample shelves to backdrop here, but also their ample internet, which is nice too. So, hey, I can move today on camera. And yeah, nice to see you all out there. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Nicole. How are you doing today, Dan? You ready to talk shop?
I really am. And Daniel, I'm not going to lie. It's going to be, look, if you watch this show for any length of time, you know that sometimes there's a delay between myself and Daniel, or
It's
there's a little bit
true.
of technical difficulties. Ooh, I'm looking forward to just kind of
This is
talking. Just
nice.
you can just hear me. Also, I like your shirt. A
Thank
Targaryen
you.
shirt.
Thank you. Yes, I had to rep today for whatever reason, because it's podcast day.
I'm wearing red. Oh,
It
and I have black
counts.
shorts on. Yes.
Boom.
Okay. Cool.
There you
We both
go.
Targaryen colors. Love it.
Targaryens and the hizzy.
Yes. And with that, we're going to start the show as we pretty much always do these days over in Westeros on the set of House
Yes.
of the Dragon, HBO's Game of Thrones prequel series, set some 100+ years before, where rival branches of the Targaryen dynasty battle for supremacy, the Black versus the Greens, brother versus sister, Rhaenyra versus Aegon. What's going to happen? We're going to find out. They're filming this giant battle scene. Uh, in Bourne Woods. They have been for weeks now. This is going to be a barn burner because they're spending so much time on it. And we're just getting, you get all yet more images. We have this great one of some mounted knights. They look like the Kingsguard almost on there. Um, Not a ton new, really, in terms of battle photography. It's more shots of battles and bodies and smoke in the air from the dragon fire and all that stuff. It's just fun to see what's happening. Is that guy in his phone? The one knight is checking his phone in between takes.
Can you blame him?
Anachronism. I can't. No, I'm sure it's very, very boring. I just went up for a lark. Are those special horses? Are those Kingsguard, or are they just shiny, shiny knights?
I mean, they look like Kingsguard to me. It is a little hard to tell, but that was my first thought looking at this picture, was that some of them look like Kingsguard, uh, but it's hard to tell. Um, Is that Kristen? I can't tell if
I don't
that's
think
Kristen,
so.
and I'm getting very close to the camera, just squinting at this picture. But yeah, Kingsguard or Knights of some sort. Either
It's
way,
a
they're looking good.
It's a lot of Kingsguard for one place. Really
It
summary,
is.
we do this every time, but battle at Rook's Rest. Kristen Cole leads an army to Rook's Rest, which is outside King's Landing. The guy in charge of Rook's Rest, Lord Stoughton, is loyal to Rhaenyra. Kristen's loyal to King Aegon. There's a fight. Lord Stoughton calls for Rhaenyra's help. She sends a dragon rider. They have their own dragon riders. Dragons fight in the sky. Folk fight in the ground. It'll be a big old thing. Being episode 4. Apparently,
Yep.
the title is going to be, and stop me if this is too original for you. The title of the episode, according to very reliable fan site Redanian Intelligence, is A Dance with Dragons.
A Dance of Dragons.
A Dance of Dragons. I paused all
Because
dramatically and I got it wrong.
because we can never have enough permutations of this. Yeah, so
Mhm,
obviously this the war is the Dance of the Dragons. We
mhm.
saw I'm pretty sure Game of Thrones used that as an episode title, or
Yeah. The Dance of Dragons. Yeah.
the
Not
Dance
not
of
not a dance.
okay, the Dance of Dragons, obviously the fifth book in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire is A Dance with
A Dance
Dragons.
with Dragons. So now we got
Yes, so
A Dance of Dragons. So
because the dragons will literally dance. That's what I'm assuming. And all will end well.
we'll see if it turns out. I think they're gonna fight, and the dance is more of like a, what did Stannis call it? Like a colorful metaphor on a brutal story, something like that.
Whew.
What a fun way. He wouldn't be that verbose, but you get the idea. But yeah, good to know. Episode 4 of House of the Dragon, season 2, A Dance of Dragons, directed by Alan Taylor, starring Fabian Frankel as Kristen Cole, and a giant battle scene at Rook's Rest. Should be a good time, Daniel. At this point, okay, by the way, I'm starting to think, now that we have this under control, I'm thinking first episode, catch up. Second episode, blood and cheese. Third episode, follow up to blood and cheese, lead up to Rook's Rest. Fourth episode, Rook's Rest. 5 and 6, dragon seeds. Meeting them, training them, having a good time. 7th episode, are we already at the Battle of the Gullet? Maybe.
I think so.
And then 8th episode, King's Landing, and then we'll do Harrenhal in between there sometime.
Yeah, I think Harrenhal could show up pretty early. I am still, and I know I was in that ludicrous camp that wondered if we were going to get Blood and Cheese in season 1. I still think we probably are going to get Blood and Cheese in the premiere, but it could be episode 1 or 2. It really depends on kind of how much they want to prime us for stuff, because Blood and Cheese is like, in the book, it's like the literal next paragraph after Lucerys and Aemond have their fateful meeting at Storm's End. So yeah, but regardless, we know Rook's Rest is basically the middle of the season, and it seems like in Bourne Woods they are filming quite a lot of
everything.
Stuff. It seems like
England.
That is, being one of their major sets, which it's great for them that they're able to use it for so much. I'm a little leery of that just because, Game of Thrones was kind of famous for using a lot of locales, Iceland and Northern Ireland. So
Croatia.
So I'm a little like, I'm a little sad that just knowing that everything's being filmed in England, which it isn't, but there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's not.
So for example,
Spain earlier.
They were in Spain earlier. I had to remind myself of that to stave off the melancholy. But so we got an image this week. I'm sure this one is from Unbox PhD.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because they are just on the ground doing the work of heroes. But Phoebe Campbell, who plays Rhaena Targaryen, was on set along with a body double. So that's interesting. Obviously, she's not going to be at Rook's Rest, so this is presumably something different. And Rhaena, if I recall correctly, Rhaena and Baela, they're, the twin daughters of Daemon and Laena Velaryon. They go to separate places during the Dance of the Dragons because it's kind of deemed that it would be too dangerous for them both to be in the same place because, Seven forbid anything ever happen to them. They're next in line for important stuff. So Rhaena gets shipped off to the Vale pretty early on in the conflict, and she kind of just hangs there for most of it. So maybe we're going to see her head there. I hope we get some scenes of her there where she can act alongside Amanda Collin from Raised by Wolves, who is playing Lady Jane Eyre. Yes, I do love Amanda Collin. But yeah, what do you think we're seeing here, Dan? Any thoughts on this?
I do think, that's Rhaena's story. She leaves the Venoms, kind of hangs out there for the whole war until something later happens. It's weird that she has a double, because that usually implies like a stunt or something. I hope nothing too crazy happens. My main takeaway from those photos, and by the way, yes, it does look like Julie is sleeping in, which, God bless her. Go ahead.
Power to you, Julie.
Thing. I can't imagine you waking up that early. Leo asked, will we ever get deleted scenes? That would be nice. There's
what a huge missed opportunity.
Deleted scene. Yeah, why wouldn't you release deleted scenes? Those are like catnip for fans. Because there's a really cool one with Baela Targaryen that just isn't in
Yes.
the first season, and we know it exists, but it's not on a DVD or anything. Those two characters are
They
important.
showed it at a con, at like a
Right.
Comic-Con or something. They screened it. So it's like they have some of these together enough to show people, but for whatever reason, I don't know why they wouldn't have put it on the Blu-ray.
If
It's
they're
madness.
smart, they'll release them.
Yeah.
Mostly what I like about those two images is Phoebe Campbell's hair, because Richard, if you could put up the video of the two sisters together from the show, of the two of them kind of side by side, if that's possible. So okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too critical, but Baela Targaryen's
go to
hair, the one on the
Wigtown.
right, great. Like it. She has like short hair in the book. She's more tomboyish, which I think would make more sense, but they just gave her kind of natural
Give
locks.
it time. I bet she cuts it at
Rhaena's
some point.
Rhaena's hair is kind of crazy. Like it's sort of this big, huge beehive thing. It doesn't look too bad in this picture, but like it's this enormous structure on her head. And it looks like they made it a little more sane in the behind the scenes shot. So like that's more like traditional Targaryen hair with the braids and like the down the back thing. Hoping that is Rhaena's hairstyle and that Baela just gets it short or something to differentiate. I get differentiating them, but I was like, why didn't they just give Rhaena what Baela has and then just give Baela short hair? Because that looks nuts.
Yeah. Well, everyone's got to get their wartime haircuts for season 2. You know, that's one of TV shows' favorite ways to show this is a new season, is give everyone new haircuts. So I'm glad that it looks like she's got a different wig. There were so many wigs in season 1 of this show, like a ridiculous amount. They were bound to have some that were better than others and some that were worse than others. So I'm hopeful that they're improving the ones that needed improving. And I do think Rhaena's kind of fell into that category. I liked Baela's a lot more, like you said. I do agree with that. But yeah, so she's in Bourne Woods filming, but not the only person in Bourne Woods. Who else have we seen in Bourne Woods this week, Dan?
Okay, so we got the battle scene filming. We got Rhaena Targaryen, probably in the Vale, I'm guessing. We had a report of Matt Smith on site, probably in Harrenhal. But to be fair, that one we never got photographic proof of. And we got this photographic proof, the Night's Watch, tromping on, wearing black on their horses, tromping through the woods, just doing their Night's Watch thing, protecting the realms of men from the threats beyond the wall. And obviously, they're not at Rook's Rest. They're not in the Vale. So this one location in England, Bourne Woods, is being used for at least 3 different places in Westeros, all at the same time, which is so fun.
Yeah.
You know, you say you're disappointed about
Movie
it.
magic.
I say, like, this means going on a House of the Dragon, like, tourist expedition, super easy. You just go to the one place and, like, there are plaques everywhere. If this season is a success and, like, these scenes actually go off well and become beloved and iconic, then Bourne Woods is about to become, like, apply for business licenses now. Like, start making the merch now. Like, start getting your stands up now for the tourists who will come after the season airs, if it's a good season. But yeah, the Night's Watch. They're dressed in black and they have black horses. Back in this time, the Night's Watch were better funded, and I guess they could afford to say, we only want black mares to match our cloaks.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. The Night's Watch is going to be in much less disrepair at this point in time. I'm kind of excited that they're including them, because the Night's Watch is just not relevant at all to this part of Fire and Blood. Like, they're just not really there. So that's a decision that I really like. I think that they're including the Night's Watch in some way. We're all kind of assuming that just Jace and Cregan Stark are going to visit them because they need to bro out and do some fun things to get to be fast friends and whatever, because that sets up a later plot arc with Cregan. But yeah, the Night's Watch, I'm excited to see them. And hopefully they're filming on that stretch that we saw get snowed on.
Oh, they have
fake snow. They have to be. Because there's no reason for the Night's Watch to be anywhere other than at the Wall or Winterfell.
I don't even know I'm sure it's they go there. Honestly,
Yeah,
oh, pardon me. Including the wall on the Night's Watch feels a little fan servicey to me, just
it
like
is.
because they know we want it. But as long as it's not insane, I'm fine with it. As long as it's not like a whole new plot up at the wall, which
Yes.
is possible. Because TV shows are different than books. Like it's one thing for in George R. R. Martin's fake history book where like tons of things happen on a page to leave Cregan Stark off for like technically years of combat and just
Yeah.
say like it, and then he came back and then he was there and he played this big role. I guess it is possible that they'll want to do more with him and like have a whole subplot with Cregan Stark if they want to keep the actor front of mind for like a couple of seasons that they would need to before he comes back and becomes like an important part again. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about this. That is possible, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I had a thought and I completely forgot it thanks to my brilliant little extemporaneous monologue there. Let's see. Snow, Wall, Cregan Stark, Night's Watch,
Leaving people off
blah,
screen.
hair. No, it's gone. But I made some
Okay.
great points though.
You did. And you're totally right, of course, about that is one of the difficulties of filming a
Hey,
show
hey.
versus a book with a bajillion characters, where they can leave people off screen and then bring them back, 3 books later. Cregan Stark, so after he meets with Jace, he really isn't relevant until the end of the Dance of the Dragons, which means if they stuck to the book, we wouldn't see him again until season 4. I bet we see him assemble the forces of the North in season
Sure.
3 to go march to help with the fight or something like that.
Sure. People love that.
Did you remember what you were going to say? You busted out the finger.
I did. That's very observant. This is what we can do with our delay.
Right?
Yeah, I remembered that my prediction is that even though I don't know who's playing Cregan, that Cregan and Jace are going to be getting really busy on AO3 when the show comes out.
I mean, if Aemon and Lucerys are right now, then I think that's a safe bet.
Speaking of Lucerys, Leo asks, "What will Rhaena's mental state be when she hears her betrothed died? Hears her that Lucerys died, her 12-year-old fiance. She'll probably be okay. I'm not sure they seem that close, or like even, whoo, doing with the marry an 11-year-old.
Yep, I imagine she's gonna, maybe there will be some shock, but I'd be surprised if they made her all that broken up about it. Yep. Hey, Camilla, cousin
Camilla.
fiance.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And sorry, Julie, to confuse you. I think it's because I got here first today, so I get to be on the left side.
Is that why? Yeah,
I think so.
Usually I'm the first one, and that's true.
I think that's why. So you have
the library is changing everything.
My punctuality. It is, right? But yeah, so I think you're right. I think they will invent some stuff for Cregan to kind of keep him relevant throughout the entire show, because they need him for the end of the series, basically. But I do agree with you, Dan. I hope they don't invent some crazy new Night's Watch plot line. My hope for the Night's Watch is Jace goes to Winterfell. He's visiting with Cregan. A Night's Watch person comes in and says, "Hey, we have XYZ issue." Yeah, visiting. We have XYZ issue at the wall. We need the attention of the Lord of Winterfell. And then Cregan's like, "Hey, want to go check that out?" And then they hop on Jace's dragon and they go to the wall, because when you're in the north, you got to check out the wall. So I hope it's just something like that.
Good to see it.
That's right. Gotta go pee off it. Tyrion Lannister style.
Oh God, more eroticism.
That's right.
And before we move on, Julie, I know you got in a little late, which you're do whatever you like. God, I still can't believe you get up that early. I'm so sorry we're this early in the day.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the Wheel of Time review, but we can't do it because of the embargo, so we're going to record that a separate video we're going to release afterwards. So this episode will be a little shorter than usual.
Yes.
Which explains why we're skipping right to what are you watching or reading?
It's true.
That section where we talk about what we're watching, what you're watching, and what we think about it. And by the way, Andrew, we had said that Dune 2 has got pushed back to much of the year, but that is in the lightning round.
Yes.
Patience.
I do have some opinion. Like, can we go a little long on that, on the lightning round? Just that one. Just
you know how Julie and folk don't like it when we go over 20 seconds.
You make a fair point.
You can decide whether you want to tempt fate when we get there, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, Dan, and all of you out there, what are you watching? Slash reading,
Okay.
slash playing video games, slash whatever it is you do with your spare time.
Well, I'm happy to report that so last week I reported on watching the first episode of The Winter King, this new Bernard Cornwell show on
Nice.
MGM Plus about King Arthur, and I reported that I hated it. I didn't like it. I Why don't I ever bring the copies of the books in here? I have I can hold it up. I love those books, the Winter King books, Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell, great books. I recommend everybody. And the premiere episode of the show, I didn't like it. I just thought it didn't stay true to the book at all. It wasn't
Yeah.
remotely like what I enjoyed about it. The second episode improved a lot, which is nice. It was much closer to the book, and frankly, it improved a lot when it did that. It got
Mhm.
more
Funny
into
how that works.
one of the things I enjoyed about the book, which was kind of it's very much into like Christianity is kind of the invading force against
Sure.
paganism, like
King
back in the
Arthur.
Arthurian times. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And they do this really cool thing of it because Merlin in like kind of popular consciousness, he's like a wizard robed guy who goes like zap 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 or like communes with spirits or does things like this. In these books, he's a druid, he's a pagan, and he has power just because so many people think the gods are real, and he kind of it's a lot about like putting on a show and kind of convincing folk that you have this power, and because they believe you, you do.
Yeah.
um they got into a lot more of that in episode 2, which I like because that's a big part of the
That's
books.
cool.
um it's still not great, it's definitely on the cheap side, and they I don't like who they cast as Merlin. Like
Yeah.
in the book, one of the things I really like about Merlin is that he's really he's like this like what's funny, what's
I'm
so
laughing at Nicole's
hilarious.
I'm laughing
Okay,
at Nicole's comment, but they stabbed a baby.
they did stab a baby. Oh, that was good though. Oh, I actually
Oh
yelled
yeah?
out when that happened. Yeah, I was like, no. I mean, it was shocking. Like, it was horrible, but I did know that they were, they at least moved me. Like, they at least
Yeah.
got to me, and I was like horrified,
If
which
you're not
was,
moving people with if you're doing baby violence and you don't move people, you're doing something seriously wrong, because I think that's a very easy thing to get a reaction from people with.
it was the most blatant baby stabbing I've ever seen on a TV show or movie. It was just like,
Wow.
here's the knife, stab the baby.
Damn.
Reenacted. It was very
Brutal.
intense. Um, and that's something. I mean, I vastly prefer being horrified to being bored and indifferent, which I was with the first episode. So you had to step a bit to step a bit to do it, but at least I felt something, which I think is important. I don't like the guy that
Yeah.
cast from Merlin. He's boring and he's not nearly as cool as the one in the book, but it was an improvement. So kudos on that.
Yeah. I think, you know,
Baby.
Nicole makes it, she says it felt cheap and unnecessary to me. I think
Yeah, probably.
it is. So The Witcher did some baby violence in season 2 that similarly
Did?
felt cheap. Yeah, there was a whole plot line of Francesca's baby being assassinated.
Oh,
And then
right.
in revenge, she goes out and she kills a whole village full of babies with magic,
Killing all the babies.
killing all the babies. And it was a horrifying scene, but it was another one of those, like Nicole said, it felt cheap and unnecessary to me. And also in that, it was like a huge kind of unnecessary thing for the character. So I don't know the context of the Winter King baby stabbing. But it's,
You know what?
it's a tricky thing to do
Briefly-
something like that and
It
have
is
it feel
tricky.
necessary.
There's some discussion in there, so because what we're talking about in the comments, the nature of baby stabbing. So I'll just talk about baby stabbing really, really fast. It was kind of so the king dies, and then it's the king's baby goes to live with Merlin's people in Avalon, and
Mhm.
then kind of the new guy who wants to be the king comes in, and because he wants to be king, he stabs the baby, who is the heir to the throne. You get it?
I see.
Only Morgan switched the babies, so she took the real royal baby and
Is this
gave him.
Arthur?
No, Arthur's somewhere else. Forget about Arthur. Somewhere.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
So the guy stabs the fake baby, who he thinks is the royal, but the royal baby's fine. And then they do
I
have the
see.
bit where, like, because the people in Merlin's thing are basically in a cult, like they
Yeah.
willingly gave up this baby, like their baby, to be sacrificed because they
Called
thought it was important enough. And the parents do get a little arc. They're like, how could you do that? And
yeah.
the couple is arguing because ends up the wife didn't want to kill the baby as badly as the husband was willing to, and it causes some tension in the marriage.
Ah,
So it is dealt with.
that's good.
I thought it was effectively creepy. I didn't think it was too much, but yeah, it was a lot. Like it wasn't little, it
Yeah,
was a lot. It was baby stabbing. We've talked
gotcha.
about baby stabbing a lot
There has
on
been,
this
yeah,
podcast.
that, yep. Don't tell your friends about this. But do tell them about our podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool to hear, you talk
baby
about
stabbing.
Merlin and how they're doing Merlin and Avalon. I'm sure Bernard Cornwell did it really, really well.
Oh,
And
so
it's so funny that like Merlin is like stereotypically portrayed as like wizard with robe shooting lightnings from his fingers. But like, and I'm pretty sure like the actual like Arthurian, like older Arthurian stories, like that version of him as a druid on Avalon is the version of Merlin in most of those tales. Like Marion Zimmer Bradley, who we don't need to talk about Marion
good.
Zimmer Bradley,
Ooh, yeah, she has
but
a fun history.
yeah, that's one way of putting it. But Mists of Avalon, which I do think, as awful as she is, that is a pretty seminal work of hers that's still
Yeah,
worth discussing. And that's what she did too. Was Merlin it's a title to the head druid of Avalon, and they have witchy practices there, which Bernard
mhm,
Cornwell, it sounds like, leaned into that as almost a
he
cult.
did.
Which is interesting. That is an interesting angle. And I you know, reading your review for this, you talked about how Merlin is a wiry old dude who's as likely to cause trouble as he is to
Yeah,
solve stuff in the
in
books,
the
and
books.
that's fun. But they younged him down. They younged him up.
And they
They aged.
blanded him up.
So there's this show, Cursed, too, that
Oh,
was
yeah, I remember
really
Cursed.
bad. And Cursed did a similar thing where Merlin was Floki from Vikings, that actor, one of the Skarsgårds,
Sure.
and he was like a younger drunk kind of hellraiser.
Ooh.
And it's like, I don't know what it is with these shows and the need to make Merlin young and attractive and whatever. Like, he can be an old man. It's fine. Like, we're all fine with it. You don't need to like give us an edgy new young Merlin. Just saying. Slash
I
rant.
agree. I agree. But okay, what are you watching, Daniel?
Um, well, like Andrew and like Camilla, I've been watching Ahsoka. That's probably
Hmm.
been one of my main things I've been watching lately. And yeah, the third episode went up today. I enjoyed it, but I was also a little disappointed
Ooh.
because it's very short. So the first two episodes they're pushing like an hour. Episode 3 is like 36 minutes, including the credits. So like it's like half the length of the previous two episodes. And that's one of the things about streaming. You don't know the episode lengths till they drop, and they can be wildly different because they're not filling a time slot on television. And I thought it wasn't as good as the previous two episodes. I think it was still really fun. The ship, I mean, half of the episode is a ship battle, and it was
Hmm.
cool.
That's
It
good.
got a little ridiculous. Ahsoka's doing flips in space to slice up spaceships, and that just I I just had to suspend my disbelief because that is just such a goofy thing to see happen.
Like, how did
Um,
she land back on the ship after the first cartwheel? Whatever. Keep going.
yeah, I'd have to watch closely because they had her land, and then the next time she jumps, she's floating.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like, we know we did a ridiculous thing, but here, take this bone, which is that she still has to abide by the laws of physics and space occasionally
Sometimes.
when it is convenient for our tension. And yes, so Camilla has strong opinions. Camilla has been writing about this on bamsmackpow.com, which is one of our sister sites. You should, if you are watching Ahsoka, she has
Love that.
very strong opinions, which are very fun. And yeah, it was mostly set up this episode, and they kind of shoehorned some things to make it so that they could do the setup. I feel like, so here's my very brief Ahsoka rant. I wish that Disney could just forget the First Order was a thing. which is the bad guys they introduced in their
Sure.
trilogy of movies, because it all hinges on after the Empire falls, the New Republic is just as inept as the Old Republic, and then the bad guys come back, and it's cyclical and all these things that George Lucas liked. But it just it boggles my mind, because it's like these people just overthrew this terrible intergalactic empire, one of the most renowned in all of fiction, and they're just complete morons immediate, like not 5 years after. And yeah, they have to tie themselves into knots to make that work. So like this episode of Ahsoka, there's a plot point where the New Republic doesn't want to help out with Hera's plan. And Hera's whole thing is like, oh, the Imperial remnants are clearly not working alone. And it's like, yeah, they're not. We saw a bunch of Sith with red lightsabers and a huge ship get away that she tracked. But the New Republic is like, meh, you just want this for personal reasons. And it's like, there's no way that argument holds water unless they're just complete and utter morons.
Or they're in on it.
Or they're in on it, which is fair, but it still feels like, I don't know, like I said, tying themselves into knots to make it work. Sure. So I'm enjoying Ahsoka a lot. I just had issues with this episode.
I watched it. That was cute. I mean, I'm sure everything you're saying is right. I didn't really think about it much when I was watching. I just
the spaceship was fun.
Thing. It was fun. I thought the spaceships were fun. And frankly, when I saw that it was 36 minutes, I was like, thank God. I don't want to be sitting there forever.
Yeah, I will. So full disclosure, I did have that reaction too. I watched it and I had issues with the length as an episode of television, but as someone whose workload is affected by it, I was like, oh, hooray. So that's fair.
By the way, lots of good comments from everybody. Andrew's going to check out One Piece tomorrow. Nice. I think Leo asked why she didn't I don't know what I'll do. Why
it's about a rubber man. Like it'll be fun.
Okay.
Rubber man pirate.
Rubber man pirate. That's a good description. Got to say that today is my dad's birthday.
Happy birthday, Andrew's dad.
To your dad, Andrew. Leo asked why Ahsoka didn't just fly through space like Princess Leia, which is a good question. I mean, because we know it can happen.
Oof, Leo, wounded in my heart.
Hey, she had can Force users fly? Has that ever happened? I mean, they can.
I mean, Leia. Yes, Leia did literally fly through space. I think they pick stuff up. Like Palpatine picks himself up in, I think, Revenge of the Sith. He's like on a platform and he uses the Force to lift that platform around when he's fighting Yoda. But
okay, yeah. Well, because if they can lift other people up, like they can contract a larynx.
They can Force jump.
So like if two of them just like lifted each other, I don't know. I'll write to the proper authorities about this.
They did do that in the cartoons. They had moments where one Jedi would jump and the other would use the Force to push them. So that is a thing that can happen. Fun. Leia's was particularly stupid because that's just her, one, surviving in space, and then two, flying through space where there's no gravity.
Star Wars is crazy. Liam Neeson just called the Star Wars fandom a cult today.
He did. Welcome to Avalon, aka the Star Wars fandom. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was good. He has the scratchiest, deepest voice. I listened to that interview. He was just growling like a cornered Wolverine through the whole thing. It sounded great. Anything else that anybody else out there is watching? What besides these things are you watching? That's a good comment. Us too, Julie, and we're gonna talk about it soon.
Yeah, the only things. So aside from that, I finished reading a book called The Phoenix King, which was really good. That is out yesterday from Aparna Verma, and it's like this Indian-inspired fantasy book. Not fantasy, it's science fantasy. So like think Dune, but with like lots of morally great characters. Yeah, this has sci-fi tech like Dune. Like there are suits people wear and like an arena where the gravity makes the sand shift while they fight and stuff like that. So lots of very cool things. I enjoyed that book a lot. But aside from that, the main other thing I've been watching is The Wheel of Time, which, yes, Julie, if you want Wheel of Time thoughts, check out the channel tomorrow because we are going to be putting up our spoiler-free like first review of the Wheel of Time season 2 tomorrow.
We would do it right now, but embargo hasn't broken it. We
Not
respect
till
Jeff
tomorrow.
Bezos' right to control what we do. So
That's right.
we love you, Jeff.
But yeah, I think Nicole said she just saw The Flash, which was surprisingly fun for DC. Nice. Nicole, that's good to hear. I've been pretty ambivalent about The Flash, so I have yet to watch it. But it's nice to hear you enjoyed it. You're making me a little more curious.
In DC, that Superman show, I know that Andrew's talking about it on Amazon. Really, really good. Just a good show.
Nice.
I was afraid that I wouldn't buy Jack Quaid as Superman Clark Kent. Like I would recognize his voice. I really don't think about it much at all when I'm watching it.
That's good.
So it's kind of odd that he's been so successful, that guy. Like he is one of the it actors. But he does a good job. So
what are you saying, Dan?
I'm saying that, okay, I'll give an example. So
are you saying Tom Hanks' son had the chips stacked against him?
He is Dennis Quaid's son and Meg Ryan's son.
But I knew he was someone famous as children.
I'll put it this way. I heard that they are, yes, he's going to have a baby. I heard that they are making a Jack and Daxter movie and that they're going to cast Chris Pratt as whatever the little rodenty one is. It's the kind of thing where like,
that's Daxter.
Sure. There's more than one actor you can call, you know, like there's gotta be other actors out there. But okay, let's go to the lightning round because we do want to wrap this up a little early today. We're totally not going early like we said we would. But onto the lightning round.
Can I just interject? I agree with you about Daxter. I agree with you. He's a kid who gets turned into a marmot. Don't cast an adult to play that. Cast a teenager, you cowards. Okay, let's continue.
Okie dokie. The lightning round, where we go over a bunch of news stories we don't have time for. Give our 20-second opinions, maybe more if you just can't help talking about that thing you were interested in. Let's just start with that and see what happens. Daniel,
sounds good.
20 seconds on the clock. Dune Part 2 has been delayed from this November, I believe, into 2024.
Yep. Surprising no one. Dune Part 2 is now coming out in March of next year. The studios are inept and fools, and they announced this the day before a huge cover story for Dune dropped, which is hilarious. But yeah, no surprise. They want this huge star-studded cast to promote the movie. So they're hoping the strikes will be resolved by then. And yeah, it saddens my nerd heart, but of course it has to happen. Make a fair deal, AMPTP. Wow.
I didn't hear a buzzer.
I have such power over the buzzer.
Okay.
Yay.
Great. Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, Dan. Disney Plus finished shooting its Spiderwick Chronicles series, and then they decided they're not going to air it.
Yeah,
it's gone.
I don't know Spiderwick Chronicles. It's like a YA book series, but it's another one of these things where they make a whole show and they're just not going to air it. Like they're just going to pass on it. We've seen that with like the Batgirl movie. We saw that with the Willow show. Kind of like they had it and they took it away. This new phenomenon of like shows being made and then just not shown because it's more cost effective. Just take the tax write off. It's a weird new kind of byproduct of the streaming wars, but you know, that's what's going to be. It's where it's going to have to go. We'll move on.
Can I add?
Do you have a thought?
I have a thought. I'll make it quick. One thing that I saw someone say about this is that might affect the ability of the author of those books to then get it adapted again. So not only is Disney canning their own production they made, they're potentially screwing the person who they optioned the books from being able to get a show made from their books. All right, continue.
Wild. Okay. Go Daniel, this is kind of cool. AMC shows like Interview with the Vampire, Fear the Walking Dead, Ride with Norman Reedus, and other things are going to be available to stream on Max for no extra charge through October 31st. That's neat.
Yeah, that is neat. I think the cynical part of me is like, yes, all these streamers realizing it's hard to get people onto their services, so maybe they should play nice with each other and put their shows on each other's services. As someone who did not see Interview with the Vampire for that very reason.
So good.
Huzzah. I will be watching it.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, hit me.
Okay, so the Last of Us showrunner Craig Mazin did an interview recently where he said he would have no issue with spin-offs in principle.
Yeah, sure. Go off, Craig Mason. Last of Us, big important show. I wonder if HBO will start doing more spin-offs now that House of the Dragon has been a success, because it's their first spin-off on the history of the network. So
Yeah.
if they want to make a spin-off about zombie number 3, Clicker and Son, I think they should
Clicker.
think long about it and then maybe do it if they think it's a good idea.
I'd watch Clicker and Son. I hope
Clicker and Son.
any idea about other spin-offs, they throw all those out when they hear this podcast and then put Clicker and Son on the fast track. All right,
They
what's next?
run a bed and breakfast together. Okay, Daniel.
Yes.
Rick and Morty season 7 premieres October 15th without the original creator and the voice of both Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. Weird.
Yeah. I mean, weird, but also kind of. I can see how that happens. Justin Roiland was involved in, I believe, domestic violence case where he was accused of some stuff. He was eventually acquitted.
Get off. Yeah,
he did get off, but it brought up a whole bunch of other toxic shit that he did in the workplace that people had issues with for years. So yeah, we'll see. I'm curious what it will be like without him.
I'm curious too. We'll see.
All right. Speaking of Interview with the Vampire, the first pictures were just released from season 2. What are we looking at here, Dan?
This is Sam Reed's Lestat. It was a really good show. I feel like it got a good fan base, but it deserves a bigger one. It was very solid. I'm looking forward to season 2, and I will watch it. I'm glad it'll be on Max. I'm glad it'll be with a stronger audience. If you haven't seen the Interview with the Vampire show on AMC, it's different from the movie with Tom Cruise and the other guy, and it's just really, really good. Watch it, enjoy it. Brad Pitt, that's the guy.
That's to say, the only time Brad Pitt has been the other guy in like his whole career.
Okay. Daniel, you know what? I'm going to ask you this one because I think you'll have more knowledge.
Swap me.
Daniel, Henry Cavill is due to star in a reboot of the Highlander movies. There can be only one. Only there's 2 because now Henry Cavill is one of them with Christopher. I've lost this. Go ahead, give your opinion.
Yes. So that's still happening. We heard about this a while ago. I believe it's the director of John Wick and Henry Cavill doing this. I think that's a fantastic pairing. And Highlander is one of those cult classic movies. I personally like the TV show even more than the movies. The TV show, I think, achieved even more popularity. So I hope they bring in kind of some of the elements from both. Looking forward to that.
Cool.
Boom. All right. The final question of the lightning round. So Dan, George R.R. Martin recently named Blackwater, the season 2 episode featuring the Battle of the Blackwater, as his favorite Game of Thrones episode that he wrote.
Yeah, that's cool. I can see that. He wrote that one. He wrote The Lion and the Rose where Joffrey dies. He wrote The Pointy End, the one season 1 no one really likes. He wrote, I mean, it's one of the lesser ones. He wrote The Bear and the Maiden Fair season 3. Yeah, it's a great one. There's this big list of like 25 perfect episodes from the past 25 years on Vanity Fair. The name Blackwater is one. They call it the best Game of Thrones episode. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
What's my favorite? Tune in next week. We'll find out. So we wanted this to be a short episode. We completely failed. It went pretty long. But I hope that you enjoyed it anyway. And we're about to go and talk about the Wheel of Time, give you all the goods, our opinions on the first 4 episodes. But you'll have to wait until tomorrow on the Winter is Coming YouTube channel to see them. And you're kind of a kilt, sign me up.
There you go, Nicole. This movie's for you.
It should be fun. It's for all of us, let's be honest. If you want to hear more from us, we're here every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. CST, 3 a.m. In Melbourne, and nothing else really matters. We're also available, and then that's on the Winter's Coming to YouTube and the Winter's Coming Facebook page. You can also download some podcast form wherever you download your podcast, be it Google Play, iTunes, or elsewhere. We'd love to stay, but we have to go and talk about the advanced episodes of The Wheel of Time that we watched. So Join us soon. See you tomorrow, and keep watching the skies.
Yeah, take care, y'all.